Sidha-Sadhaka Samvadam. Dialogue between a realized being and an ardent seeker. This is a dialogue between Sant Dnyaneswar, the realized, and his father, Vithoba, the seeker. This dialogue was cherry-picked by Bhagavan Sri Ramana and read out aloud by him from the Tamil version of Maha Bhakta Vijayam while answering the query of one Manu Subedar in the year 1944. This portion was first translated into English for the benefit of Manu Subedar and later translated into Telugu by Suri Nagamma. There is an interesting anecdote to the Telugu version which is extracted from the book Letters from Sri Ramanasramam. The original Tamil version along with the English and Telugu translations will be reproduced here as 3 separate videos. Each language will in turn contain 3 sections. 1. The entire dialogue of Sidha-Sadhaka. 2. Doubts of the Sadhaka alone. And 3. The answers of the Siddha alone. In the scheme of things, this will be a 4 parts video, divided for the sake of convenience and brevity. The first part will be a brief note on Sant Dnyaneswar and readouts of extracts from books published by Sri Ramanasramam, viz. The Golden Jubilee Souvenir 1946 and Letters from Sri Ramanasramam of Suri Nagamma. This video will form a common introduction to the remaining 3 videos. At the end of this part will also be appended copies of the pages from the pocket book of Sri Ramanasramam of the Sidha-Sadhaka Samvadam in English. Parts 2, 3 and 4 videos will be the actual Sidha-Sadhaka Samvadam audios in Tamil, English and Telugu. Viewers can choose their preferred language video. The English and Telugu versions of the Samvadam have also been personally perused and approved by Bhagavan Sri Ramana. Kindly see the part 1 video before choosing your preferred language video since it contains some very interesting and engaging reading. Sidha-Sadhaka Samvadam. Extract from Golden Jubilee Souvenir 1946 by Manu Subedar, MLA, Central. For over 3 years, I resisted the invitation of my friend Shankarlal Banker to go to Ramanashram. I pleaded with him that I was not ready, that if I went into a very large shop, I would feel ashamed to come out with my hands empty. At last I decided that I would pay a visit, and I prepared myself for about 2 months prior to that visit by reading nothing else except those 2 very outstanding books, that is Ashtavakra Gita and the Avadhuta Gita. After finishing some work which I had at Cochin, I set out for Tiruvannamalai. I decided that I should ask a few questions in order to solve some of my doubts and framed a few questions. I was alone in a car from Katpadi and wanted to go over my questions and revise them if necessary. As I formulated each question, I found that I knew the answer. So when I went and had the darshan of the Maharshi, I had really no question to ask. I permitted myself to observe others and to absorb the elevating atmosphere of the ashrama. I presented to the Maharshi a commentary on the Gita by the sage Dhyanadev, a great Marathi classic which I had rendered in English after 8 years of effort. He was much pleased with it. I had with me extra copies of the Avadhuta Gita and Ashtavakra Gita published by the Sastu Sahitya Mudranalaya Trust of Ahmedabad, of which I am the chairman. I presented these also to the Maharshi. I mentioned that I had been reading these books and I drew his attention to the very first verse in the Avadhuta Gita, which is as follows. It is only through the grace of God that in men with knowledge is born a desire to experience cosmic unity, Advaita, a desire which protects them from the great dangers of samsara. I further drew his attention that most of the matter in these books was for the advanced Siddha, that is, the adept. For new seekers who were attempting to learn, there was not much of direct guidance. With infinite compassion in his eyes, the Maharshi looked at me and instructed one of the followers to bring a book. This was the Maha Bhakta Vijayam of Nabhaji. Bhagavan opened the book and began to read it. I noted with awe that the book opened exactly at the page where he intended to read. This is a discourse between Dnyaneshwar Maharaj and his father, in which the young son, who has achieved realization, is arguing with his father, who is still afraid, still seeking, and still groping. The Maharshis seem to relish the reading of the discourse. Those who were present thoroughly enjoyed the reading, and I discovered that I was given exactly what I needed. I am forever grateful to the sage for what he taught me. The best teacher is he who takes you from where you are to the next stage. There is spiritual communication and kindliness in his look, eliciting what is best in a person. His presence during the silent hour acts as a catalyst, enabling the concentration of every person's spiritual learning and zest. There is grace and benignity in the way he looks at the devotees as a mother looks at her children. 2. Extract from letters from Sri Ramanasramam, dated 10/8/1946. About 2 years back, Manu Subedar, a member of the Indian Legislative Assembly and translator of the commentary on the Bhagavad Gita by Dnyaneshwara, came to have darshan of Bhagavan and asked Bhagavan during a conversation why it was that there were writings about Siddha Purushas in all books but none about sadhakas, and whether there were any books about sadhakas. Bhagavan said, in Bhakta Vijayam in Tamil, there is a conversation between Dnyaneshwara and Vithoba, his father. That is a discussion between a Siddha and a Sadhaka. The state of a Sadhaka can be seen in that conversation. So saying, Bhagavan sent for a copy of Bhakta Vijayam from the Ashramam library, read out that portion himself, and explained it in detail. On reaching home, Manu Subedar asked for a copy of that conversation. Bhagavan sent a copy after getting it translated into English. Manu Subedar added it as a supplement to the third edition of his Dnyaneshwari. Recently, I translated that conversation into Telugu. 3. Bhagavan gave Nagamma some instruction as to where and how she might begin the portion in the life of Dnyaneshwar, which she is translating into Telugu. The portion where Dnyaneshwar goes to the forest, argues with his father, and brings him back to the city and family. In this connection, Bhagavan wanted to see where and how we began when we translated the above portion for Manu Subedar's benefit. And so I took out Manu Subedar's 1945 edition of Dnyaneshwari, in which the above translation is given as an appendix. Bhagavan perused it and said, "We shall begin the Telugu translation in some such way." Bhagavan looked into the Tamil Bhakta Vijayam and told Nagamma, "You may begin by saying that when the Brahmins complained to the king against Dnyaneshwar's grandfather, that he was spoiling the Brahmin caste, etc., Dnyaneshwar went to the king and argued with him ably on behalf of his grandfather, that the king was greatly struck by the boy's genius and wanted to see what sort of a man was the father who gave birth to such a child, and sent Dnyaneswar with his own retinue to go to the forest and fetch his father. Bhagavan also asked me to show D.S. Sastri, Nagamma's brother, who arrived this morning, the appendix to Manu Subedar's Gita, Dnyaneshwari. Extract from Day by Day with Bhagavan, dated 10/8 and 11/8/1946. The story behind the Telugu translation of the Sidha-Sadhaka Samvadam. Letter number 260, dated 21/11/1949. In 1944, ever since Manu Subedar came here and went, the English translation of the debate between a Siddha and a Sadhaka had been sent to him. I have been inclined to translate it into Telugu. When Subbaramaya and Venkata-Krishnaya were here, I asked them about it in Bhagavan's presence. They said, it would be better for you to have the Tamil text read out by somebody and write it yourself, instead of our translating it from English. So saying, they went their own way. Noticing this, Bhagavan one day told Muruganar about it. In the evening, when Bhagavan went out, Muruganar looked at me and said, "From what Bhagavan has said now, it appears that you will have a lot of work to do with Tamil literature. Why don't you learn Tamil? I would not ask you to learn it if it were any other language. Normally, Bhagavan writes and speaks in Tamil only. That is why I am suggesting that you learn it." I took it as Bhagavan's orders. I obtained a copy of Bala Bodhini, a Tamil Telugu dictionary which is in the library, wrote down the alphabet by myself, and in a week's time learned to read and write. I asked the librarian to give me a copy of the Bhakta Vijayam. He did so. When he was giving it to me, Bhagavan looked at it and said, "Have you learned to read Tamil?" I said I learnt a little of it and told him all that had happened. Saying it was all right and good, Bhagavan asked me why I had taken Bhakta Vijayam in the very beginning. I told him that I had chosen devotional stories as they would be interesting to read. Bhagavan asked me if I would like to read the debate between Vithoba and Dnyaneshwar. When I expressed my willingness, he asked me to fetch the book, saying that he would show me the portion concerned. I got him the book, whereupon he picked out the relevant portion and marked it with red ink. He casually inquired whether I would translate it into Telugu. I told him that I had taken it merely to read and I was not sure that I could understand it sufficiently well to be able to translate it. Then he said that I could do it, but I should seek the help of some Tamilian. I told Vishwanatha Brahmachari about Bhagavan's suggestion and requested him to help me, to which he agreed. He kept, however, putting it off. Some days passed like that. One evening, when he came to me suddenly and said, "Shall we do the translation without telling Bhagavan? If we tell him, he would ask for it and then correct it, thereby straining himself unduly. We would thereby be giving avoidable trouble to Bhagavan in his delicate health. What do you say?" We thereupon began the work and went on by sitting at it continuously till 10 p.m. We completed it. In the meantime, several Europeans wanted to go round the hill in the moonlight. So at 1 p.m., they went to Bhagavan and requested him to give them the help of someone who knew the path. Looking at the people near him, Bhagavan said that it would be good if Vishwanathan was sent as he knew English. People went one after another to Palakottu and searched everywhere, but could not find him. Bhagavan wondered as to where he could have gone. People were sent to all the houses in Ramananagar to which he was in the habit of going, Still he could not be found, whereupon Bhagavan sent someone else as a guide to the Europeans. When Viswanathan returned to his room after 10 p.m., he was told about what had happened. He woke up early morning and went straight to Bhagavan. No sooner did Bhagavan see him than he asked whether he had gone to town the night before, as he was not to be found anywhere in Ramananagar. Viswanathan told him the facts. On hearing them, Bhagavan remarked that the people had not gone to Nagamma's to search for him, as he was not accustomed to going there. He then inquired if he was reading anything there. He could not help telling the truth. After learning that Vithoba Dnyaneswar discussion had been translated completely, Bhagavan said with a laugh, "I see, so that was it. Anyway, a good work has been completed." For a long time, Nagamma has been asking people to translate it into Telugu. There is nothing wrong in what has been done. It is, after all, a good work. It does not matter, I was not told beforehand. But could you not have told the people in the next room? See how many people searched for you and felt worried, said Bhagavan. Next morning, I went to the ashramam at 7:30 as usual. As soon as he saw me, Bhagavan began laughing to himself. I could not understand why. As soon as I had prostrated and got up, he asked me if it was a fact that the translation work was completed the previous night. I was taken aback and could not reply. Then Bhagavan told me that he had learnt it from Vishwanathan early in the morning and pointed towards him. When I looked at Viswanathan, he smiled and said nothing. Then Bhagavan asked me for the copy. When I told him it was yet to be fair copied, Bhagavan told me that I could do it at my leisure. When Bhagavan went out, Viswanatha Brahmachari told me all that had happened and said, "We wanted to translate it quietly without anybody's knowledge, but everyone has come to know about it now. Who can hoodwink Bhagavan? When he himself is asking for the copy, there is nothing for us to be afraid now. Write out a fair copy and give it to him." Bhagavan inquired now and then about the fair copy, and when I gave it to him ultimately, he returned it to me duly corrected and suggested that it should be published as a supplement to Part 1 of the letters from Ramanasramam.